everyone, my name is Lana Tran and I'm doing my presentation on research, and my final product is a starfish dissection. So this is my mentor, Professor Neely. She's a professor here at San Jac, and my ISM teacher is Ms. Zentner. She unfortunately wasn't able to make it today, and then my evaluator is Mr. M. So first I want to explain why I decided to go into research in the first place. So last semester I did my mentorship with an ophthalmologist at the Eye Center of Texas. He was Dr. Mark Mayo. And with that experience, at first I was able to shadow him and all of his ophthalmic assistants, and I was just in awe with everything. I was so interested in seeing all of the evaluations, all the procedures, all the minor procedures he did. I was just so excited to go in every week just to see all of that. But then after about the first 3 weeks, it was seeing the same things every time, just running from room to room because he was really busy and seeing the same patients with the same problems. And I quickly got kind of bored of seeing the same things over and over again. And so it made me kind of confused because I always knew and I always said from a young age that I'm going to go into the medical field, I want to do something in medicine. And so it was hard for me to process that I just couldn't imagine a future for myself in that clinic. And so I had to start thinking. I had to think, if I can't imagine a future for myself in this clinic, I have to do research on everything else that is in medicine because it is still something that interests me, just not clinicals. So I had to do research, and I found that the field of clinical research is something that really interested me. And from the experience that I had with that mentorship, it just seemed like it would click with me because I wouldn't be seeing the same things every day, but I would get new projects. I would be able to research on different topics, on things that I enjoy, that are biological and a part of medicine. And so it's kind of different from clinicals, and that's why I decided to try it out. So after I decided on a field of study to do, it was time to start looking for a mentor. And the first person I thought of was Professor Neely, because you were my professor for biology for science majors 1 and 2. A little bit about her is that she got her associates from San Jac here, and then she moved to get her bachelor's at the University of Houston, Clear Lake. And then she also changed her degree plan from psychology to biology. And I chose to do Professor Neely in specific because you do teach biology, and biology 1 was something that really interested me. I was really engaged in that class, and I wanted to do a little more research with that topic. So after I found a mentor, it was time to start thinking about a product that I could do. First, I thought I could do a research paper because, of course, it's the field of research. So I thought about it, and then I thought back to what I did last semester. Last semester, I made a video over all of the different types of lenses you can get for cataract surgery. And with that, it was just fully informative. It was nothing engaging. It was nothing interactive that I could do with others. And so I wanted to do something a little more. I wanted to take a step up for this semester. So I started thinking of all of the different types of things I could do in the field of biology with Professor Neely at San Jac. And I remembered that for biology 2, we did a starfish dissection. And I thought this would be a great time for me to just practice my leadership skills, which is, if you might be wondering, how does the starfish dissection relate to research? It's because in research you have to climb up kind of that ladder of levels that you can get within the field, and at the very top is being a research leader. And so with that, not only do you need a lot of education, but you also need good leadership skills. And so I thought this would be a good time for me to practice those leadership skills, and I would also be able to help all of the students that come in, just like I would have to help the members of my team if I was to be research leader in the future. So after I decided on doing a starfish dissection, I had to decide on who I wanted my audience to be. And knowing that I have an officer position here at CHEX as a medical club president, I thought that they would be the perfect audience to have come to the dissection, because I wanted them to be engaged. I wanted them to be interested. I didn't want them just to come in just because, they had a class for it and they had to do it for a credit. And so I figured that if they're in medical club, they are interested, at least a little interested in medicine if they come to meetings, and they might possibly want to pursue a career in the medical field. And so this would be able to give them a little bit of like a push in that direction. If they want to, they can figure out if this is something they want to do, or it can push them away from it. Either way, it would be something that benefits them and also benefits me. And a challenge that I had during this mentorship, I'm not sure if you could consider it as a challenge, but for me, it was kind of a mental challenge, because whenever I decided to do the medical club members, there was just something in the back of my head telling me, what if no one signs up? You know, what if they're just not interested, and just because it's for my ISM product, I think it's interesting. But the important thing about that was that it was just mental, and it was a mental challenge for me, but in reality, I had a lot of people sign up, and it was just kind of something that I had to overcome. So this was what I used during my product. This is the PowerPoint slides that I did. At first, I started the lecture with a little bit of a background on what a starfish is. I explained what its phylum is, which is phylum Echinodermata, which means that it's radially symmetrical, and it also has spiny skin, which isn't actually the skin but is the endoskeleton, and that's kind of what I explained to the members who came. And then I also did a little bit of a summary on the water vascular system, which is what they got to see when they did the starfish dissection. After that, I let them go off and do the dissection on their own in groups of 4 to 5. And then I also gave them a worksheet that I made, and this one has all the instructions that I went over whenever I did the dissection for them, and I projected it onto the screen. Just in case that they were watching but they didn't get a small detail or anything, they had that there to help them through it. There's a little diagram that I had in the slide as well, so they could see all of the different structures, and also a space for them to draw out the dissected starfish so they could practice using that new vocabulary that they learned, and then a few questions just to get their mind reeling. I also have these worksheets on the desks if any of you guys want to look at them. They're student filled out, so I got permission from students, but it's kind of what they did with those worksheets. These are pictures from the dissection themselves. This first one over here is when I was giving the lecture, those slides that I showed in the previous slide. This is after that, when I was giving the dissection, I did run across a little bit of an issue with the projector, because I was projecting it onto a big screen, and it was from way up in the ceiling. So when it zoomed in, you couldn't really see the fine details of the starfish. And when I was trying to show them the stone canal, which is a very little thin tube that connects to the top of the starfish, it wasn't showing as well as I wanted it to on the projector. And so I wanted them to be able to see it so that when they did the dissection themselves, they would be able to better identify it. And so I had to have them all come up and look at it, which is not something I planned initially for, but it was something that I think really helped them with their experience in finding out where the stone canal was when they did it themselves. And then these two pictures over here is when I sent them to do the dissection themselves. I kind of just walked around, helped them through it if they had any questions about that. So the conclusion is that I had a lot of handouts that I had. Some of them I didn't get to include, they were kind of iffy, but there are some that were good, and those are the ones I included for you guys to look at. And out of this experience, I did find out that I really do enjoy leadership, and it's something that I've enjoyed for a long time. I do enjoy public speaking, I enjoy speaking in front of a crowd, and so having that leadership and being able to lead people and help them through it was something that I really enjoyed. And just having that experience with something science related was something that I think helped me solidify my decision in going into research. So I did mention that I was thinking of doing a research paper for my final product, and I decided against it. However, it's not something that I completely pushed away from my mind. I decided it was something I could work on alongside my starfish dissection as a part of the mentorship. And first I had to choose topics. And first I thought that I was going to do 2 research papers throughout the semester. I was going to do one on epigenetics and one on cell therapy. And after I decided to start with the cell therapy one, after a few weeks, I figured that I just wasn't going to have enough time for both research papers, because it was taking me quite a while to learn all of the terminology and just kind of learn the gist of what the therapy that I chose was. And so I had to go with just cell therapy. And the one I decided to do was chimeric antigen receptor T-cell cancer therapy. This is whenever people with cancer, it started off with prostate cancer and then acute lymphoblastic leukemia. In 2002, it was the first successful time that they used CAR T-cell therapy, and it was whenever they withdrew blood from someone who had that cancer, and then they brought it to a lab and modified it so that the T-cells would be able to reproduce more rapidly and then attack and find those cancer cells in the body. And it was the first time they used it in 2002 for prostate cancer. That was successful, and after that success, there was more interest in it, and one person who took interest in it was Carl June. Carl June was a immunotherapy professor at the Perelman School of Medicine in the University of Pennsylvania, and he at the time was focusing his research on bone marrow transplants. And one of the common side effects of a bone marrow transplant is graft versus host disease, which is whenever the host cells find the transplant to be kind of threatening and they find it foreign, and so they begin to attack it, and this can be sometimes fatal. And so he wanted to find a way that he could get the results of a bone marrow transplant without having that possibly fatal side effect of graft versus host disease. And so he started to look a little bit more into T cells with people with HIV and AIDS, and he did experiments, and he eventually became a pioneer of this type of cell therapy. And in 2012, there was the first experimental thing done on the cell therapy with Emily Whitehead, and at the time she was 6 years old. She had acute lymphoblastic leukemia, like I mentioned before, and she had relapsed twice. After having a lot of chemotherapy, she just kept relapsing, and so they decided that the doctors were going to tell her that there was nothing else they could do for her, and they asked her parents to just put her in hospice care. But her parents and her family didn't want to give up on her, and they decided that they wanted to look a little more around the area and out of that area just to look for someone who could help her and maybe just give her a possibility at having a longer life. And so that's whenever they found Carl June, and he set her to the first phase 1 stage of chimeric antigen receptor T cell cancer therapy, and after having that cancer therapy done, she's now 10 years cancer free. So everything I mentioned in this website in this presentation is provided in this website. I'm gonna get out and just explain it a little bit. So this is the homepage that I made. It's my portfolio, and then it has a little thing that says that it's my coursework for the ISM course that I'm doing, which is what this mentorship is for. And then at the top, I have a tab for contact information, and it has the email for Professor Neely, and also for me if anyone wants to contact either of us. And then I have an About Mentor page. It's a picture of me and Professor Neely we took, and I also have a small little description of her. And then there's also an interview I conducted of her, and she kind of talked about her education and what she likes about her field of study. And I wrote an interview essay about that, and what I kind of put in that essay was that people need inspiration and passion for what they do, and so it's a very important part of your career. And I kind of just elaborated on that and used you as an example that you need to have passion to get through your career and have that decision. And then we also had journal entries that we had to make throughout this mentorship. So it kind of starts at the beginning, and this is the question. If you click on it, it'll show my response. And then it's just this very last one was more recent to now, and it has all of that information, and if you click on it, it'll have my answers for that. I also have my annotated bibliography with all of the sources that I use for my starfish dissection, which includes handouts that Professor Neely gave me, and PowerPoints, and also YouTube videos that I watched to get a visual representation of what that dissection would look like. I also have my presentation slides on here. The one that I'm using right now I'll upload after this presentation, but I did do a midterm presentation over this as well, and there's that PowerPoint. And then I have a page about the product, just kind of pictures that I used in my presentation, a little look into it for anyone who's not familiar, and then my proposal and the lecture slides, as well as some of the student responses that I have coming around. And then lastly, I have a page for my resume. So now I want to go into what I learned for this. From this mentorship, I learned that research is definitely something that I want to consider, and it's something that I want to go further into. Next year, I'm going to be heading off to university, and I want to start working towards this career path. It's something that I really enjoy. I enjoyed that leadership experience that I got from the starfish dissection, and I really, really enjoyed writing that research paper. It was a topic that I just found so interesting, and it's just pushed me in that direction even more. And like I said before, leadership is something that I really enjoy. I really enjoy public speaking in front of an audience. And so from what I've learned from this mentorship is that research is for me. It's something that I want to do. And I'm happy that it solidified that decision, because before I was just really confused. I didn't know what I wanted to do in the future, but with this mentorship, it really solidified that. These are the sources that I used that were shown in my website. And then I want to thank Ms. Zettner, even though she's not here. I know she's going to watch this, so thank you, Ms. Zettner. And then I also want to thank Professor Neely for taking time out of your week. I know sometimes you were busy with stuff, but you made time to just meet with me and then also check over my paper. And then I also want to thank Mr. M. Even though you didn't know that you were going to come in, you still came in and made time to evaluate me. Do you guys have any questions?
No questions, just a comment. I'm really impressed the way you speak. I'm really impressed with the information you're able to gather, and this is for y'all as well. So when I was growing up and I was a kid in high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I found my passion, but when it came to like medical terminology, I suffered a lot. I really struggled. I was a dumb jock, sports girl, that's it. So to see you, 17, 18 years old, so young, and you're absorbing so much information, you speak with confidence, it's not only going to help you whatever you do, it's also going to help you when it's time to do an interview.
Mm-hmm.
You speak with confidence, you speak like you know how you do, not cocky, but you have confidence in yourself. It's going to get your foot in whatever path you want to take. And the best advice I can give you, and you already touched upon it, is find a passion.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, as long as you can pay your bills, you're okay with the hours, you're okay with your responsibilities, you will be happy and you will be able to take care of your life. I say find a passion as well though, because whenever you're in that pathway to get to that passion, whatever path it is, when it gets hard, you're going to be able to push through because you're going to rely on your passion. Opposed to just going to school because everybody else is going to school, or just going for the money, whatever other reason. When it gets hard, you're going to want to quit. And now you're going to waste your money or somebody else's money and your time. So if this is it, that's great. If it's not it, it's okay to fail. My sister-in-law just got her career as a PTA physical therapy assistant at the age of 38. So I'm not saying that's going to be your path. Maybe you found it already. But keep on asking the questions. There's no dumb questions. The worst thing that you can get from a question is a no, and it's completely free to ask questions. I want to say I'm impressed by you, and keep pushing forward.
Thank you. And I just want to say I haven't always been so good at public speaking. I was really bad public speaker before, and I didn't know it was something I'm passionate about. Like you were saying, it's important to know it's something you're passionate about. But I did take a public speaking class, and it just got that passion out of me. And so that's kind of something in my journey that led me here.
It's a good skill set. Like one thing I never struggled with public speaking. I just didn't care. It didn't bother me. But it's good that you're able to grab that now, because it's going to help you in your career. It's going to help you in your interviews. It's going to help you all in life. And it's a good skill to have. I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. And I also just want to say that some of the stuff in this presentation is from outside sources, and I did cite